Hi guys, I'm going to try to piece together a video here on how I troubleshot the issue with my dishwasher of the dishes not drying. This happened after I think 3.5 or 4 years. This is a Kenmore Elite 2015-2014 model. So obviously you notice very quickly when your dishes aren't coming out dry. So I assumed it was a rinse agent issue or something along those lines. What I found eventually was that the dishwasher was, for a while it looked like it was finishing, but then it started just shutting off mid-cycle. And I noticed that if I were to start the cycle back up, everything seemed fine. But sometimes it would do that again. Other times I would actually notice that the display here was blinking something strange, some strange characters, or the lights were flashing up on top. Other times I would come back as this problem progressed and notice that my breaker was completely off. I have a GFCI breaker as opposed to having a GFCI outlet. I have a GFCI breaker. I've heard some people say that's not a good idea, but anything that involves water in a kitchen or bathroom, I think it's like required for you to have that. So anyway, the first thing you think of is the heating element, and I inspected mine. Oh, by the way, whenever the dishwasher would be off and I'd open it up, I noticed that it was filled with water still. So that's when I started realizing, okay, something must be completely wrong with the entire cycle. It must not be finishing, or there could be even a pump issue or something. So anyway, I pulled the first thing you see that they tell you to do is to pull the heating element out and measure the resistance and continuity on it. So that's what I did. Let me show you that real quick. 13.9, 13.7, and that's totally within range of what I think it's something like between 10 and 30, they say. I'm trying to remember. And if you visually inspect it, there's really nothing wrong with it. It's not rusted out or anything. It looks good. So I figured, okay, that's not the problem. So what I did is I put that back in, and I started trying to figure out how to troubleshoot the other things that it might be related to the water filling up. And so I came across a few videos that show you how to start the dishwasher up in a debugging cycle for, technicians to do debugging. And basically all you do for that is you hit any keys in a 1, 2, 3 sequence. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Then it'll start up and all the lights will come on, and then it'll go through like a 22-minute cycle. So after messing around with it a little bit, I did that, and I figured out that it was failing around 7 minutes, 650 or something like that. So this thing is complicated. I'm not even sure if I'm reading it right, but basically what I did is when you start that cycle, it goes through, 27 steps, and each step does a test on a different set of, parameters in here. But when I did the math to figure out when it was failing, I noticed that this interval, which is interval number 5, had the OWI sensor test in it, and that's basically a thermistor. That's a thermometer and a water level indicator, and it's also called turbidity, which I guess is how, there's my doorbell, which I guess is how clean the water is. So I said, okay, it must be that sensor, because that's submerged in the bed of the dishwasher, so it must be leaking. So I found that thing and I pulled it out, and it basically looks like this right here, these two pieces. And so I opened this up and I looked at the components inside, especially on this side. Look how corroded those are. So I assumed it was that for sure. So I went ahead and ordered one of these on Repair Clinic. You can go to Sears Direct, I think it's called Sears Direct online or something, and put your model number in, and then look up the parts, so you can easily find which part is the replacement to put in. So I got one of these, did expedited shipping. Here's the thing right here. I don't know if that will help anyone. And I think it's actually a new part too, so they replaced the original sensor in there. So I plugged it in, turned the thing back on, and the same thing happened at the same time. So I took the front of the dishwasher off and started messing with the circuits and trying to measure, like, this This is a technician's guide, and this is inside. This is hidden inside the front panel padding. Let's see, where is it? There you go. There's like a little red piece of like a bag in there to hold these two. There's two of them, one in Spanish, one in English. Anyway, this has a bunch of information on how to troubleshoot, and most of this stuff is very technical, and I can't figure a lot of it out. You can measure resistances using your voltmeter on a bunch of different circuits, troubleshoot a whole bunch of different issues that you're having. Some of it's kind of helpful, but then after I realized I'm not going to get anywhere with this, I'm going to have to call someone. I did find a post online of someone saying just unplug the sensor, unplug the heating element and then run the tests again. Well, that's pretty simple. So I'm in the back of the dishwasher right now, in the back of it, and yeah, you have to pull it out to do all this stuff, just FYI, but that's not that hard. There's two leads here that plug into the heating element. So essentially you pull these off, and if you want to take the heating element off, you could unscrew these and the thing just pops out. It's really easy. You can look on YouTube for that. But what I was going to point out is you could just take these two leads off and run the cycles again. And what I noticed right away is that the cycles ran all the way through. Of course, the heating element didn't turn on to dry the dishes, so that part doesn't work. But of course, now you know, okay, it has to be the heating element. There's no other things that are involved there. So after I found that out, I took the heating element out again, and here is actually what the problem is. It looks like there are leaks, rusted out leaks, and I don't know why I didn't notice this before, but anyway, there are rusted out leaks here. So what seems to be happening, for example, on this side, after the water pools up inside, it runs through this, which I think is supposed to be sealed, but must have just rusted out over the last couple of years. And it runs out through here and then onto this lead, which it didn't leak or anything, so I didn't notice that. But what I'm assuming actually happens is that since I have a GFCI breaker, and if you have a GFCI plug, as soon as the water leaks through here and makes contact with the leads, it will actually it'll short this heating element out with the pooled up water in the basin of the dishwasher. So that will immediately trigger the ground fault and either kick the breaker or the outlet. So it might still work if I didn't have one of those outlets, but so you can see this is worn down pretty well. The new model, this is also a new model. Sorry, the one that I replaced this with was also a new model. So it's a slightly different design, and it has some blue rubberized paint here, and the washer is a little bit thicker. So I think that probably makes a difference. I'm hoping it does. But anyway, I got the new element, plugged it in, and everything worked just fine. So even if you do the tests that they tell you to do, you may not actually find out that the heating element's an issue until you either unplug it and run the cycles through to test, or just replace it all together. Or if you could take it out and you see that there's water down here after it runs. The only other way I noticed is there was a difference when you run so what I did is when I was working on this thing, I turned it upside down, dumped all the water out and let it dry overnight. And the cycle actually got through further, but then as soon as the hot water, I guess, started leaking through, then it died out. So that's another way to tell if it's dry, if it runs a little bit longer. That's another way to tell. This is probably a factor. But the heating element is about $50 for this dishwasher, so I don't even know if you might as well, as soon as you see a problem with it, it's probably safe to just order one and replace it and see if that helps. And hopefully the new one is made in a better way. So I hope this helps. I'll put the serial number of my dishwasher and the heating element part. I just ordered it on Amazon. And hopefully that helps. If you guys have questions or comments or any feedback on the whole GFCI thing, that'd be cool too. Thanks for watching.